Welcome to Deep Dive with Dr. D. Thanks for joining me. Today, my special guest, I call all my guests special because they are. I'm fortunate to have a lot of people in my world that I appreciate knowing and having in my world in different ways. So today, it's Brad Case. I'm going to let him introduce himself in a moment, but I'm going to do my shameless plug. My book has been out now it'll be a year in April. You can get it wherever you buy books locally in Ellensburg at Gerald's or Pearl Street Books. And then you can get it online wherever you buy books. If you want to buy local online, go to geralds.com. They'll send it to you in the mail. And this one is for you, my friend.
Thank you.
You haven't read it yet?
I have not.
Enjoy.
I will.
Yeah, I call it the short story of the wild ride of my life.
Okay.
People read it usually in one setting because it's pretty interesting. You know a little bit about me.
I do.
Yeah. And then when you get done, and if you buy it out there, I like to ask a couple questions once you're done.
Okay.
And you know me pretty well, so it'd be interesting to ask you the questions.
I
That's
look forward to
yours.
it. Thank you.
Now, so this question is not on the sheets.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's not a surprise question. He's like, do we get to edit this out at the end with things I didn't mean to say? I'm like, no, you don't. But tell the world out there that's listening about you, about Brad Case.
Okay.
Who are you personally, professionally? What's important to you? Blah, blah, blah. Give it a little introduction.
Got it. Okay. Well, I grew up in the Edmonds area, just north of Seattle. So I'm a West Side kid, and have a younger sister, 3.5 years younger than me.
Okay. Where does she live?
She lives. It's interesting. She lives. Her home base. Her and her husband and my nephew Oli. Their home base is down in the Manzanita, Oregon area. Along the Oregon coast. My brother-in-law Jeff is a fly fisherman, and they own a fly fishing business. And so what they do is they spend like the school year period of time in Manzanita, and then they own a fishing lodge actually up on the Dean River in British Columbia. And so it's a remote fly-in, this out in the middle of just the most beautiful rugged country. Haven't been there. Hope to make it up there this summer. But we're talking grizzly bears and on the river. It's just it's a I'm not a fly fisherman, but it's a location that people will come from around the world to go to. I mean, it's
kind of like the Yakima. People don't realize that.
Yeah,
maybe even more so. With
I don't want to say it's more so, but I mean, they got they have cabins. They got a 5-star chef on staff. I mean, it's a very it's a special place, and so they spend part of the year up there doing that. And so and then I grew up, and my dad was a high school PE teacher for over 40 years. In the Seattle School District at Nathan Hale High School. My parents grew up in the Seattle area. So
what part of Seattle?
They grew up in my dad grew up a block and a half away from the Woodland Park Zoo. So right now,
that's a cool area.
Great neighborhood.
I walked around that area. Me and Sarah went to the Woodland Park Zoo for a show. Super cool area. So that's where your dad grew up.
That's where my dad grew up. And my mom grew up kind of where Northgate's at along I-5. So Northgate basically and I-5 before the freeway, and it kind of was her front yard. And so, but they went to high school together and high school sweethearts, and they've been married over 60 years and still live in the same house that I grew up in. And and so yeah.
Okay.
So then went to Central back in the early 90s. Got a degree in leisure services is what it was called back then. Yep, back then.
Was Michelson? Did you?
Yep.
It was
all
still
classes.
There?
Yep. So still walking around campus and still, I'd go back and guest lecture in classrooms that I was a student in, which is kind of a surreal feeling. And
was it your plan to be in Ellensburg?
No.
Because you actually went back to the west side.
Yeah, I went back to the west side. So I got a degree in recreation. I knew, growing up in sports and athletics, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later, I wanted to work. I wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to work in a recreation setting where kids didn't, not a school teacher necessarily, where kids have to be there. I wanted to be someplace where kids wanted to be.
Why didn't you want to be a school teacher?
I wanted to be work with kids that chose to be in a location. You don't get the choice to go to school.
You got to go to school.
Got to go to school. So I just and my dad was a teacher, and I didn't necessarily want to walk that path.
What'd your mom do?
She was a stay-at-home mom for most of my childhood, and then
send her my condolences.
As I got older, she started to go. She worked at the schools, elementary schools, and doing part-time work at the elementary schools. So,
and then you said your your sister and brother-in-law do the fly. Does your sister fly? What's her?
Her job is first and foremost being a mom to Oli,
Okay.
which she's an amazing mom.
Good.
And then, but she also does a lot of logistical things, managing,
yeah.
handling. Jeff's a dreamer. Jeff is, you know,
Okay.
I mean, and Catherine kind of handles a lot of the other stuff. And
Perfect.
they're a great couple,
Good.
you know, they do well.
So
So
you graduate school.
So graduated from Central in leisure services, went back to the West Side, didn't really know what I wanted to
What
do.
year did you graduate?
I spent a lot of time in college. I took my time getting through college. So winter of, I think it was like, I was like 5.5+ years of school. So winter of 95-ish, somewhere in there. I think, I can't really remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. That's my dark years in my book.
Yeah. So I went back and,
Went back to Edmonds
and hung around for about a month. And my dad's like, are we going to work? What are we going to do? So I actually picked up the phone book back in that day and went through and I started calling Boys and Girls Clubs in King County. And I got to the Mercer Island Boys and Girls Club phone number, called them, and they said, hey, we have a day camp next week. Why don't you come out and try it out and see if you like it and see if we like you?
Mercer Island.
So,
wow.
and I never worked for Boys and Girls, you know, never even really stepped into a Boys and Girls Club before. So I really,
you literally just opened the phone book.
I literally opened the phone book and started cold calling. Yep. And my dad had worked.
What was your spiel? Do you remember?
I'm a recent graduate of Central Washington University.
This is just the internet's just becoming a thing. So we're still doing it old school.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Old school meaning phone call.
You can't look up information. Nothing. Absolutely. Absolutely nothing. I knew about Mercer Island. My dad was in addition to being a PE teacher in the summertime, he was a tennis pro to kind of, so he was a tennis pro at the Mercer Island Beach Club for many summers. And so I would go over to Mercer Island. So I had familiarity with the island and everything like that. But anyway, so I called them up and they said, hey, come on out. So I went out and worked there for a week. And at the end of the week, they said, hey, we'd like to keep you on part-time. So I started working before school programs. And then, so the kids would get there. They get on a bus, they'd go, and then I'd go home, and then I'd come back and work in the afternoon. I umpired. I worked. I basically, if they asked me,
did what you needed.
If they asked me to do something, I did it. Even if I didn't fully understand.
So that was your first job.
That was my first job out of college. Correct.
Well, hold on. What was your first job ever?
My first job ever was actually in the tennis world as well. I belonged to a seasonal swim and tennis club in Edmonds. My family did. And I grew up playing tennis. And then when I got to kind of late high school, early college, I became a seasonal tennis pro.
Oh.
So I was one of the pros at the club.
You're pretty good at tennis?
I used to be able to play tennis.
Do you play pickleball?
I occasionally I do.
Okay.
And those two translate pretty well.
They do.
My dad played tennis at the university.
Pickleball is just faster, right? Shorter court?
A little shorter court, not as much running.
Okay.
I mean, you're moving a lot, but not long, shorter court. So yeah, pickleball's a great sport. It's tennis takes a long time to learn.
Pickleball's faster.
You can pick up pickleball faster and go out and rally and enjoy it with somebody. Now to master it, to be good at it, it takes that takes something. But yeah, I grew up playing tennis.
You get the job at Whidbey Island. Whidbey?
No,
I mean
Mercer
Island. How long did you stay there?
I stayed there. Probably over a year, and then I started working at the Redmond Club as well. So I was just doing a little bit of everything.
How do you get to Ellensburg?
Well, let me get to that.
Okay.
Be patient.
No.
Okay. I got a full-time job then at Arlington Boys and Girls Club working in athletics, and then I got a full-time job in Edmonds. So that was kind of my progression. So how to get back to Ellensburg? Started a family, had a son. So on the west side. Had our first child Grady, and or expecting. I was like, living in Seattle's great, but not maybe where we want to raise.
So we're 97, 98.
We're no later than that. So we're 99. We're 2000.
Where were you working in 2000?
Edmonds Boys and Girls Club.
So I was working in 2000. I was a manager at the Fred Meyer at close to SeaTac on Pacific Highway.
Yep.
Okay.
Living in Fremont, had a view of Lake Union and downtown and Gasworks Park. It was a great place to live.
But this is toward the end of the yuppie years. The .com era is coming.
Fremont was still a funky neighborhood and very different. Not what it is now.
Yeah.
But anyway, a job opened up at the city of Ellensburg, and it was to run the.
How'd you hear about it?
Ellensburg Racket and Recreation Center. I think WRPA web. I don't know how I heard about it.
Came across.
Came across
Ellensburg.
Saw Ellensburg. It actually opened up earlier in the year, I was too late to apply for it, so I wasn't able to. They went through the process, hired somebody, and that person didn't work out, so they reopened, actually. They reopened the position.
Time period?
It would have been early 2001.
When did you move to Ellensburg?
May. Well, I started working for the city of Ellensburg in May of 2001, and then I moved over here at the end of June, I think. So for a couple of months, I was commuting back and
So
forth.
we both have anniversaries coming up.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I moved to Ellensburg April of 2001.
Yeah.
With Fred Meyer.
Yeah.
So that gets you to Ellensburg.
Wow. So I mean, a job that is in recreation
Yep.
and also racket sports. So it just kind of would fit. It's like, this is a melding of all my experiences and what I enjoy. So, I came over and ran the Racket Center from May of 2001 until early.
So you weren't the director?
No, early 2003. Oh. And at the time, the director.
Who was it?
Scott Archer.
Okay.
And Scott was here for a few years, and then Scott left for Medford, and still is one of my dearest and closest friends.
Okay.
Really unfortunate that he left. I was sad that he left, but when he left, I said, "Well,
I'll
apply," and was fortunate to get it. And I think early next month will be my 25 years with the city. I think 23 years as the director.
Is that common?
No.
Well,
what common?
Longevity in that role in a city entity.
Well, I think it's been more common. I think it's becoming
less common.
Interesting, for sure.
Okay.
But it was definitely a fast track for me because I only worked for this municipal government for about 2 years before I got in position. Before I was in that position as a director. So steep learning curve, but. Yeah, that's how.
And you've been here ever since.
And I've been here ever since.
Raised your kids in this town.
Raised the kids in the town. And
I don't want to bring up a sore subject, but you were married here, and now you guys are not together.
Correct. Yep.
You're got a girlfriend now. I saw your place downtown. Super cool. You went through some life change.
Went through some major life changes. Yep. And the kids are now adults, and our son Grady's living in Helena, Montana. Graduated from Carroll College a couple years ago, and so he's working security right now. He's going to get married in the summer, in July. So that's exciting for them. Okay. And then my daughter Lily, she's out at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, in the aviation program, and so she is in her last semester right now. And
pilot or management?
She's doing aviation management with the hope to become a pilot someday. So
cool.
So she went out there. She went out there for aviation and kind of fell in love with the community. Pretty similar to Ellensburg. And she kind of wanted to get away from here, and she's been she's done great. She's doing well. So so they're both kind of entering into their next phases, and we are as well. So it's life takes changes, and it's interesting, but that's
pretty good.
That's where we're at.
Pretty interesting. We have some common threads as we moved to Ellensburg almost same exact time.
Yeah.
Same amount of time. And did you ever think you'd live in Ellensburg? Did you think when you moved here, you had one child?
One, and then, the second.
Was this this is where we're staying?
I think, certainly during the period of raising kids. I mean, Ellensburg is we found it to be a wonderful place to raise kids. Mm-hmm. And, then after the kids left for college, then that was going to be kind of, figuring out where to go from there. It wasn't, necessarily the plan to stay here for a lifetime, or, and I don't know what the future holds. Obviously, none of us really do. But, once you get over here, you realize that it's a pretty special and unique place. And
we were talking about music, and I have the album Eagles Hotel California.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hotel Cal. I see that so much with people who move from wherever to here, and even natives.
Yep.
Move and come back.
Yeah.
You can come, but you can never leave.
Yeah. Well, and I know that, people that have left over the course of the years, they're, more often than not, they kind of look back and go, gosh, we miss it. Yeah. And once you do leave, it's kind of hard to, in certain niches, it's hard to kind of get your foothold back in the community. So, I mean, cool. I've only, during my tenure with the city, I've applied for one other job during that entire time, and that was with the city of Edmonds. That's where I grew up. Okay. So that was kind of a going home. Obviously, I didn't get the job, which is
how long ago was that?
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Did we want to say that out loud?
It was yesterday. No, it was not yesterday. It was probably now it's probably close to 10, 15 years ago.
So you're thinking maybe just
kick the tires on something, and and it didn't work out, and they hired a wonderful person. And looking back on it, I'm really glad that that opportunity didn't present itself like I may have wanted it to at the time. But we live in a really really good place.
And so thank you for that introduction.
Yeah.
Really good. And this is what we were talking before we started this about. What I love about this is I've known you a long time, and I just learned a lot about you. So a couple things. One, when I look at leaders who have people under them, one thing you can tell about a leader is how long people stay with them.
Sure.
And you've had Jody with you, and David, and Katrina only left not because of you, but to start the preschool. She was with you. You have a lot of people that have stuck with you.
Yeah.
In a role that maybe people won't.
Yeah. It's
cool.
Yeah. Recreation it's a great, it's a wonderful profession to be in, and we love coming to work every day, but there can be some challenges, some burnout and some challenges associated with that. You work long hours, and it's
in
stressful.
A public realm.
A public realm, yeah. So I mean, Jody's been with the city for many, many years, and
longer than you.
Yeah, longer. Jody's could be one of our longest tenured city employees as a whole. Wow. Yeah, Jody started working at the pool when she was a teenager. Yeah,
wow.
So she grew up in.
And David,
she literally grew up in that facility. Yeah, David's been with us for I think close to 20 years now, and Greg Hall, our park supervisor, and now Caitlin, who came up underneath Katrina and everything. So we've, but I also that speaks to their commitment to the community probably more than anything else too, and their love for what they do.
People will leave if they don't have a strong leader.
Yeah, and I think
if they have a shitty leader.
Yeah, and I think we've been blessed during my tenure with the city of Ellensburg. We're on our third city manager during that time, and city managers typically are lasting somewhere probably between 5 and 7 years, and so we've had really good leadership at the top, and we've had strong support from our city council, and city council's got a really difficult job, and this last year has been a tough one, but they've been very supportive of Parks and Recreation in our community. I can probably count on one hand the number of council members during that time I'm kind of like I'm not really sure where they stand on the fence when it comes to recreation, but it by and large the council has been extremely supportive. So and I think that Ellensburg is just a good place to be too. So I think thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, seriously. And so you and I, so people know, how did I meet this guy? I think it was through email.
Correct.
Before Katrina. Pre-Katrina. Katrina and I knew each other.
Katrina was working for me.
She was. She was working for you, and I was living in Dogtown.
You were.
And I had these kids speeding down my street.
You did.
And so I kind of did my own little investigation. I noticed they were going to the ball field.
Yes.
And that's where we kind of met.
We did.
I remember you were really kind and professional, and so that's where we initially met. And then me and Katrina started dating.
It's like, wait a second, that's the guy that and that's the thing about Ellensburg. I mean, everybody is so connected to everybody else. Either they're related or there's some type of commonality. And so you always want to be professional, and you always want to treat people the right way. That's what we're in the we're here to serve the community. But there are certain situations that have come up over the years where you're like, boy, I'm glad that went well.
Doesn't always happen. Super cool.
Here
we go. First question. I've known you for about 15 years ish, right?
Yep.
And you've spent nearly, actually longer, we know that now for sure, 25 plus years just with the city of Ellensburg. That entire time serving this community through Parks and Recreation. What's kept you committed to that work for so long?
Well, I think we've already touched on some of the reasons. I think when you've had a career that long, there's multiple reasons behind it. I think first and foremost, I love what I do.
Okay.
The reason I got into recreation was I grew up in Edmonds, like we talked about, and I played for a sports league called the Snow King Youth Club.
Okay.
And it was a recreational sports league. But those were really great memories for me. You played with your classmates. Back then, you played all the sports. So you played played soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring, and then you went and did whatever you did during the summer. As opposed to today, where things are much more specialized, and kids have a tendency, they specialize in sports early on, and they focus on that. And
just the one or two,
and they travel. And
you did them all.
But everybody did it all back then. There wasn't an option. So, but that organization really shaped me, and I wanted to, in my professional career, be able to provide those same opportunities for the community that I served in. I wanted to give kids the chance to experience something similar that I experienced, and provide that opportunity. And so, you got to love what you do. You got to want to, some days are harder than others, obviously, but you want to every day. You got to want to show up to work and do what you do. the people that you work with. If you surround yourself with good people, they're going to make your job a lot easier. A lot more just doing good things in the community. They make you look good. So I've been able to surround myself with people that are really good and people that I really enjoy. I mean, people walk through the door. I don't have an employee that walks through the door and I'm like, oh boy, what kind of mood are they in today, or what are they? What do we got? They're just every day they're excited to serve and are just genuinely enjoy them. The leadership of the organization, you have to enjoy who you work for. And that's not only your immediate supervisor or boss, which in my case is the city manager, but also the community. The community is passionate about Parks and Recreation, and they will communicate that, during when things are going good and when things are struggling and they don't like it. And that's, you want to work in a community where people feel passionate about it. And Ellensburg certainly is passionate about recreation and the services that we provide and the facilities that we have in our community. So, and Kelly says this too, it's not, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. And so, I think, being able to, I get great satisfaction of going to a city park facility and seeing how it's matured, or seeing something that I've built or been a part of building or walking into the grocery store and seeing a kid walking around with a youth basketball jersey on. I mean, I see that and I just smile. And that kid and that family, they have no idea who I am. 15 years ago, probably would know them because my kids were in that, we're younger but now it's like, they don't know who this person is. They see some weird guy smiling at them in a grocery store. But I see that and I'm like, okay, I'm
a part of that.
That's what it's all about.
Connection.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, being able to live and serve in the same community is special, because you see things that you see marks around town that you are aware of or been a part of. And it's like, okay, that's a legacy that nobody needs to know. Very few people know about the connections of who's responsible for what, but it's like, okay, that feels good.
Pretty good.
That feels really good.
Mine has been launching, my big feather in my cap, the KCRCO, which is now Piers Right. And that's what I'm hearing with you with Parks and Rec, is that one, going back, is that had an impact on you as a kid. So you wanted to replicate that and make sure that continues. We were in Fred Meyer yesterday, and I go in, and this guy who I recognize him a little bit, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. He's like, thanks for starting, KCRCO. I know it's Piers Right. And he's like, I don't really like that. I'm like, hey, but those are the things that we're like, okay. Yeah. And it's creating connection. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Isn't it?
It's creating community, and I think parks, our world has changed. And the neighborhood that I grew up in, Edmonds, we had 4 blocks of families and kids, and every day in the summer or whatever, you're out playing, and you're doing you're from sun up to sundown, you're out doing things. And you don't see that anymore. I used to go and talk to classes on campus, and one of the things that I would say is, I've lived in Ellensburg for X number of years, and I've never almost ran over a kid in my car. And people look at me like, what a weird thing to say. And I'm like, that happened to me almost on a daily basis when I was growing up, because we're outside every day playing in the neighborhood, playing in the streets. Now you see a kid walking down the sidewalk, and if they look too young, what's your first thought?
Yeah. Why are you outside?
Where are your parents at? What are you?
Yeah.
What, do I need to call somebody? Do we need to, and parks have really become kind of that extension to people's front yards or backyards now, because everything that happens now is organized. You have play dates. Everything is organized activities and organized sports and things like that. And so parks have really become that connector and that extension. And to see, and it, in some ways it's obviously it's wonderful from my perspective to see that. On the other hand, it's kind of sad. It's like, that's the only time that we oftentimes get together under those situations. But that's just kind of the reality of the world.
I appreciate everything you're saying. I walk everywhere. You know that. Anyone that knows me, I walk to campus every day. And I see these kids riding their bicycles to school. There's a group, there's a gang. I call them a gang.
Yeah.
And I say hi to them because it's so cool. Because you don't see that as much.
Yeah.
And my grandson, he's 15 now, and he's been raised in Ellensburg for the last few years. And when I hear he's out, walking around town, you think don't get in trouble, but it's cool to hear that. And so I see it a little bit, but I also appreciate that's so true that now that organized sports are really our front yard and backyard in a lot of ways. That's really interesting. I didn't really think of it like that before.
Well, and we get our kids involved, 3 years old in organized things where before, oftentimes sports wise, kids wouldn't start playing sports until 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. It'd be the first organized team they ever played on. Yeah. And now if you wait for 3rd or 4th,
you're too long. You're way behind.
You're done.
Isn't that interesting?
And parents are like, "Well, my kid's so far behind, I can't." And it's like, it's like so sad. It's like, oh my goodness gracious.
Do you think it's gotten too competitive?
I think it's gotten.
You're a sports guy.
Yeah, no, I am, and I think it is
too organized, too competitive.
It's competitive, but it maybe not. It's competitive in. I think the parents have a lot to do with that. Because oftentimes it's the parents that want their kids to be playing at a certain level, and they kind of push them into that when maybe they're not ready for it. And once one goes, they all go. So it's really it's an interesting. We have kids, as an example, playing youth basketball. They're driving to Yakima in the 1st or 2nd grade to play on a 10-foot hoop and full court press and 2-3 zone, and it's like, for me, developmentally, they're not ready for that. You're not going to take a first grade kid and put him on a full-size baseball field. No. So why are you doing that with basketball? So I think that's the trend. I mean, the trend is, specialized sports and
a little too fast.
I think it's early. Just, it's a lot. I mean,
and you're right. It's a lot about the parents. Like there's my grandson, Lark, is been playing football and he's pretty good. So I just, as a grandfather now, I watch kind of from the 500-yard view, whatever. Yeah. And I see a lot of the adults in the room really creating these environments where there's a lot of pressure for these kids to do well, which we want our kids to do well. Yeah. But at what age?
Yeah. And their program. I mean, I coached competitive softball for years, and in the summertime we would spend 9 out of 10 weekends traveling and going and playing. But we always encouraged our kids to play other sports. Softball was for a certain period of time, but go play the volleyball and the soccer and the basketball and do the other things. And that because you have different friend group. I mean, it makes you a better person. And you're around the same group for 9-10 weeks. It's like you kind of need a break a little bit. So I think it's just what it is. It's just kind of I don't know. We sit around and talk about it a lot, and there's some benefit. I mean, there's some great memories associated with those types of things.
I think it's a balance. There needs to be a balance.
Yeah.
That's my view. Yeah. In everything in life.
I just love to see kids just go out and play and be creative and make up their own rules. And because when you don't have parents or you don't have adults that are kind of guiding everything, kids learn how to troubleshoot. They learn how to do things on their own rather than looking at mom or dad or the coach to always intervene and try to fix things. Growing up, if you just went out and played with a group of kids, you learned how to get along, you learned how to negotiate, you learned how to problem solve, you learn how there are so many life lessons that come with play when people are given the opportunity to find out and use it and fail and succeed. Now we're just always there as parents, and we don't give that. I don't feel like we don't give that latitude and grace enough
I agree.
For failure. We learn more from failure than we do success.
We do.
So, and as a parent, I've been guilty of that as well. I mean, I'm certainly not, not without fault, but, looking back now and kind of having the perspective of my kids being a little bit, it's like, gosh, I wish I would have attacked this a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. Good. I want to see, because I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you this. What's been your highlight of your career?
Yeah.
You're the one that you're like mine, and just working with people in the community has been the KCRCO. I did that.
Yeah.
What's been your highlight? And what's been your biggest challenge when you think about your time? And...
Yeah. I think highlight, project wise, from a highlight perspective, obviously, opening Unity Park downtown was a big one. That was a long process, interrupted by COVID. We're still early on in the park's life, but I think it's going to be something that is going to be, a staple in our downtown for decades to come. And I was down at Ace Hardware yesterday, and I was leaving, and I looked over and I saw a little Seahawk rally taking place in the. It was before the event actually started, so people were in the gathering process. But just to look over and go, okay, there's a place for people to go and do that. I think the highlight for me too. I mean, the development of Rotary Park has been significant, and selfishly, I spent my son participated in sports, but on a recreational level, enjoyed it because he enjoyed being with friends. My daughter was a little more competitive when it came to the basketball and softball. So a lot of those memories are tied to Rotary Park.
The personal and the
professional side of it. Yeah, for sure.
What's been the biggest challenge? Or what's kept you awake at night?
Yeah. During certain years, the budget would keep me awake at night. But I think we've had some facilities that have, we lost the Racket Center in a fire.
Oh yeah,
that was difficult.
Arson too.
Arson, that was a difficult one. And
that was heavily used. Even though it was aged, it had its issues.
Yeah, it had its issues. But
I remember going there a couple times.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is, honestly, I mean, we love our jobs, but I think to some degree, it's like trying to stay fresh, trying to stay new, trying to. I'm going through a challenge right now. I mean, there's a lot of change happening at the city and the process of which we're doing things. And, I've been doing it for a long time, and those things are changing. So,
change is hard.
I have to really pick myself up and be willing to, and the changes that we're going through are good things, but it's changed. It's changed and it's hard. And so, I've been fortunate. We've had a lot of successes in our department, and we've had a few situations where we look back and go, the Reed Park situation was unfortunate with the master planning, just because of the divide it kind of created in our community. And you hate to see neighbor, pitted versus neighbor. And that's kind of what happened. And there were things that we could have done along the way to mitigate that a little bit. And, we didn't want to get, when you go through a public process, that's the goal, is not to have that end result. And we still had it. And so that was unfortunate. That was hard. Yep. Yeah. But, I think you learn from those experiences, and you have takeaways, and, the next time you do something, you do it differently. Yeah. And that's, if you're out there doing stuff and you're trying to move the needle forward, you're going to have failures. Yeah. When you sit back and you just kind of let things stay stagnant.
And this is from my vantage point, having lived here for 25 years, and I get it that, there's change is hard. Just in general, change is hard.
Yeah.
And, with the Reed Park, or when I hear people talking about the pool and all of I think it's important for community members to be involved, right? Because here's one of I complain.
Yeah.
If I'm going to complain, I need to either have a solution or get involved and affect change, right? And so if you're a community member out there and you're just complaining, but you're not doing anything to help affect that change, then I'm probably not going to listen to you. That's my viewpoint.
Yeah.
But I think in your position, that's probably been tough from a lot of different angles.
Yeah. And I mean, I respect the fact that when you do have an issue, what do? You walk up to my office and you sit down and you say, hey, I got a problem with this, or I don't agree with this. And we have that conversation. And there's not a lot, I wish more of that would happen. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever you want or whatever you think is it's going to change immediately. But, at least you've had the opportunity to share it. And I've had the opportunity to hear it. Now it's pretty easy to
just go on a keyboard,
or to bifurcate that process and just kind of, it's like, have that conversation. I mean, my office is on the second floor of City Hall, and when you turn the corner, I'm sitting right there, and I can't, if I wanted to escape from you, which I don't, I wouldn't even have that option. So it's like, just come and talk to me and have that conversation. And most of the time that, when I've had those opportunities, the individual that's come in has walked away feeling better about it. Yeah. They may not like it exactly, but they feel better about it. And so do I. Yeah. And then if, we have that conversation and you go and you want to talk to somebody else about it, by all means. Great. But, but again, they also, working in the public sector, you have the right to go talk to whoever you want to go talk to. And I respect that and I appreciate that and I understand that, but it's always kind of like, it's always nice to have that conversation, because I think you can cut down a lot of it with just
going to the source.
Yeah. So.
All right, let's do another question. Okay. Working in parks and recreation. I didn't ask this one yet, right?
Yep. I don't know. I'll let you know if
I want to go to this one.
Okay.
Because, you're a father and a pretty avid sports guy, in my view.
Yep.
I might be wrong, but I think you are.
Yep.
How have sports and recreation shaped the way you think about teamwork, discipline, and raising kids?
Got it. Well, I would say more from a coaching sports perspective, maybe than anything else. I think sports are kind of a microcosm of life.
Mm-hmm.
You learn, you learn hard work and you learn consistency and you learn, the life maybe isn't always fair. That you're gonna have failure.
You're gonna lose. You might win,
and it's not gonna be. When I coach softball, softball's a game of failure. Baseball's a game of failure. If you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But you're failing. You know. So
some of my favorite quotes are from Michael Jordan. He talks about that reality. He was sent to the free throw line in so many games and missed.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get up the next day and go, I'm a failure. He gets up the next day and keeps going.
Yeah, exactly. So I think through sports you can learn a lot, and I think sports are at its core fun. That's what they should be.
Yeah,
it should be enjoyable. They should be fun. Life should be fun.
Yeah.
Life. You need to have discipline in sports. You need to have discipline. Parenting and you need to instill discipline, and you need to instill structure, and you need to instill backup plans, and just everything that you do when you are coaching. You use those same kind of approaches to being a parent, and I think also being a parent should be fun. You want to give your kids a good life and and have good experiences and memories, and so I think they're very transferable. And if you get at a skew with either one of those, it has a negative impact on the people that you touch. And so I think there's always drawn parallels to and I grew up in a sports family too. And I grew up Seattle sports fan, which is one of the most difficult things that you can experience. Anybody can.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Yeah.
But it's been a journey.
But I think there's a lot of similarities to sports in particular and raising kids.
So how would either of your kids describe you as a dad growing up?
I think I had probably 2 very different experiences with my kids, because Grady's involved. Grady was a band kid.
Yeah, he was.
Did theater. Ran cross country. Played soccer. Big into gaming. The activities that Grady participates in were much different than what I kind of. And so, the kid has just got the biggest heart ever, and not a sarcastic bone in his body, and just it's like, how in the world am I did you come from my DNA? It's really interesting. So I hope that both kids would say that I was a supportive dad, and that I took care of my family and advocated for them and spent time together, and just had somebody who knew that.
You were there.
I was there. Rachel's an amazing mom. They couldn't have had a better mom to raise those kids. And Lily, I coach. Lily would probably say I'm tough. Because as a coach, when you're coaching your own kid, you have a tendency to either be the tough coach or let your kid do whatever they want and run and I had a tendency to be the tough coach and make the example. And I really wish that I hadn't done that. Looking back, it's like I wish I would have been. This past fall, I went out and visited her at college, and and I brought my glove, and she has her bat back there, and and we went out and I threw a batting practice.
Okay.
And she hasn't picked up a bat in years, but she just picked it up, and she just amazingly, really talented. And
what does that feel like to have that happen?
It was amazing. It was amazing to be out there and not have
No pressure.
Not a care in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, at no point did I say, hey, you gotta,
your
hands have gotta,
you
it's
didn't
like,
feel the need to correct.
Didn't feel, and it's like, and it was just like kind of a, another one of those full circle moments where it's like, this is special. This is cool.
I think you and I have a similar, just thinking about what you said about you wish you maybe would have been a different type of coach. I have that same, I wasn't a coach to my son, but, I was a pretty strict dad in some ways. And I wish I would have been a little softer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now me and Tyler have a strong relationship and it's, so we evolve, right?
And you can always ramp. I mean, you can always ramp it up. Sometimes when you start, it's hard to start here and then come back down. And I think there are times, and the kids were, very great, just great kids. They weren't, to the best of our knowledge, out running around doing things. I almost wish it was like, hey, go out and live, go out and live a little more. They're COVID they were in high school when COVID hit, so that kind of impacted things. But just you couldn't ask for, I guess, easier kids to raise. I mean, just really.
Well, and I think that goes to parenting. I've admired you and Rachel from afar as parents and community members, and I knew that the kids were involved in their different things, and that goes to you two. Allowing that to happen, creating the space for that to happen. No. Good. All right, you are one question away from being to our final question. Okay. So the pressure's coming off a little bit.
Okay.
Public service work can be demanding and often goes unnoticed. You've actually said that in a different way as we've talked about this. What helps you stay grounded and motivated in a role that's more about consistency than spotlight? Yeah.
Well, I think I'm kind of predisposed for the consistency piece of it, and kind of.
Where's that come from?
I think my upbringing.
Your parents.
Yeah, my parents. I mean.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. Yeah. So your mom and dad, 2 kids.
Yep.
Was that your plan?
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there was
married, gonna have a couple kids,
maybe 3, but then when you had a boy and a girl, and things were, it's like, hey, this is pretty good.
Works.
So no.
So go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think growing up in a
you grew up in a consistent,
routine structure. My dad,
Katrina did the same.
My dad's car had over 300,000 miles on it. And
wow.
Never went out and
Honda.
It's a Toyota.
Toyota
Corona. But you just never, I was never one to chase the fancy bright object, and just I like stability.
Would you view yourself as a risk taker?
No, not at all.
Not like, hey, this is crazy, but I'm going to go try it.
Opposite.
So I'm kind of
you and I are completely opposite.
Real different.
Yeah, and so obviously with some of the events of my life in the last year and a half, very different.
Yeah,
so
very different.
So big change, but no, very consistent. Very so for me, the consistent grind of what I do is, to me, that's safe and kind of
comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have to push myself to kind of get outside of my comfort zone. And I think, in municipal government kind of.
Is this a risk for you?
This was a big risk.
When I sent you the message, what'd you think at first?
Well, but let's back up. First of all, I told you I'd be on your show.
Oh, you did? So you committed.
I told you I saw you downtown, and I said, hey, if you need a guest, I'll do it.
You did?
I did. So for me, that was a big jump.
Okay.
Because for the last year and a half, kind of.
You've been doing some things. So that gives you.
But I've also been kind of, you kind of go into a different mode. You're not, maybe out in public as much. And things change, especially being in a small community. You don't know around the corner who's waiting for you necessarily. And there may be people out there that think different of me today than they did 5 years ago.
Probably.
Which I totally get. And so you kind of put yourself not in the, you just kind of almost like a little self-preservation mode is kind of what I did, and so now, coming out and talk and knowing that we're going to talk about things that may be uncomfortable, and that, people may be watching that
might look at you differently.
Might look at me differently. And so it's, this was a big leap, and there's been lots of big leaps in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And, I think, you just kind of realize
what's been the scariest thing you've done in the last year and a half that you're now going, I'm glad I did it. I
think just making the decisions that I made to to put myself in the position that I'm in today.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I like Brad today.
Yeah,
I liked Brad yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you do, and I appreciate that. And you have to, sometimes in life you have to make really difficult decisions, and life is short, and you have to be you have to be able to look in the mirror every morning and like who you see and be excited for the day. And I'm I'm some days are hard. But there are more good days than bad, and I've got a different support system around me than I had before, but still a wonderful one. And I'm really, I'm enjoying life. And I certainly haven't always made, looking back on some things, probably changed some things, in hindsight being 2020. It's like, I wish I would have done that different, but I'm in the place where I'm at, and I need to be okay with that. And, part of that is, is having the opportunity to come and talk to you and kind of be in the public is, walking into the grocery store 10 years ago, I knew absolutely everybody. My parents would come over and we'd go downtown or walk around. And it's like, my God, is there anybody in this town that you don't know? And it's like, well,
that's kind of how it goes.
There may be a couple, but now it's like, you're kind of, it's different. The kids are, your circles change as the kids get older, and your life circumstances change, and so those circles change, and so just being adapting and meeting new people and doing new things, and just really trying to enjoy life and not afraid to be crazy. And I've always been kind of reserved and but now it's I'm being forced out of my comfort zone a lot more, and
it's good,
and it's okay. Good, and you realize it's not the end of the world, and some people may look at you like, okay, who do you think you are? And it's like, well, that's fine, and I respect. I am who I am, and
listen. So I want to share a couple of things. One, the liking, familiarity, and structure and consistency. I have learned. You'll read my book, and a little bit of my story. I used to live a life of complete chaos, and never knowing what was coming next. That's how I was raised. Yeah. You and Katrina were raised in similar environments. Her parents have been together forever. They lived in the same house. And I've grown to really appreciate that. I've grown to really like knowing what's coming.
Normalcy.
Right?
Consistency.
Yeah. And that's
boring. It's kind of boring.
Yeah. But then I go, oh, no, this is okay. Yeah. That I don't have to be chasing the next thing. I don't have to be, this craziness. But also I like to force myself, like you've done the last year and a half. You see me take risk. And it's scary. And you know what? Sometimes people aren't going to like us. Yeah. But if I'm being a good human and I'm doing what I need to do to take care of David and what I think will help the world, I'm okay with that. I'm not. Like, there's part of me that struggles with that. Like, oh, God, did I upset someone or something? Because here's what you said it, and, I'm turning 59 this year. Life is short. And my overall goal, and I think you are similar in this way, in your own way, is to help people see that they have it within them to do amazing things. That's my goal. Everything I do, like this and all this crazy stuff David does, that's my goal. Yours, if I were to say yours, is to help kids grow into being great adults, right? And how do you do that? Through Parks and Rec and all the things you do. Like, you have great kids who are turning into their good young adults now. Yeah. You did that. Did you make mistakes? Absolutely. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing what you shared.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you and I have chatted offline, and I've appreciated what you've said to me and just how you've supported. We haven't even talked about how you were Katrina's boss for a lot of years. Yeah. And I'll never forget this when she got the award up in Chelan, and you wrote the speech and you said, Katrina works with the population that complains, right? Elderly. And I think you had said she had gotten one complaint in over 10 years. You lift people up.
Yeah, thank you.
You provide a space that helps people grow and learn, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to close this up. We have 2 closing questions. Okay. So this is your opportunity to, if someone gets through all of this and they get to the end and they want a message of hope. So what's a message of hope or encouragement you'd offer to someone listening who's trying to find their own place or purpose in the community?
I think they're probably already doing that. And they may not even know it. I had an interaction with Kevin Kevin, you know Kevin,
Yeah.
been around for years.
Kevin's awesome.
Kevin's awesome.
Yeah.
And he was at City Hall the other day, and I
Yep.
sat down next to him, and I asked him, I
Nice.
said, "How's it going, Kevin?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm struggling a little bit." And I said, "Well, what do you got going on?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know what my purpose is here, really. You know, I feel like I should be doing more for the community. I'm not doing enough." And I just feel, and I looked at him, I said, "Well, Kevin, every time I see you, you make me smile.
Yeah.
And I love talking to you. And I know that when I see you, I'm going to be greeted with a big smile and a hello, Brad, how you doing?" And, you know, you bring joy to my life.
Yeah.
And I know you bring joy to a lot of other people. Yeah. And he goes, "You know, I've been told that."
Yeah.
I said, "So you're
doing it.
You're doing it."
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I think just really, you know, the word of hope is, you know, we all look at things that we could be doing or should be doing.
Maybe a recognition.
Maybe
we are.
And maybe just that general recognition, sitting back and, you know, what are you doing, and taking a closer look at that. And you know, again, you know, we're never as good as we think we are, or never as bad as we think we are. But I think we're oftentimes our own worst critic.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. Just looking at yourself a little closer.
Recognizing that you probably are doing some things.
Yeah.
And maybe you can grow from there.
Yeah. And the things that you're doing,
more.
you may not get the feedback. You may not, you know, there's some things where, you know, you get immediate feedback, benefit, you know, it may be years down the road that whatever you're doing, somebody may come up and say, "You made a big difference in my life." You know, you're probably doing it.
Yeah.
Probably doing it already.
I like that. I like that you brought Kevin's awesome. I see him usually a few times a week walking to campus, and me and Katrina just saw him driving down the road, and he's, you know, always got a wave, and Kevin has a great memory. Like, Kevin knows, he's a wealth of knowledge for our community.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed watching his health improve.
Yeah.
And
his journey.
Yeah.
Super
cool.
So no, that's
okay. This is it.
Okay.
What's a question? This is where I get a little nervous, and you've got me nervous.
Okay.
What's a question you've always wanted to ask me?
Okay. All right. Well, I thought about this a little bit. I don't, you know, you don't throw me very many softballs, so I'm not gonna throw you a softball on this one. So your journey, your history, your story to get where you're at is an amazing one, and obviously it's shaped who you are today. You know, do you ever see yourself in the future kind of being able to, would you put that behind you and solely focus on kind of what's in front of you? One thing that Kelly and I talked about a lot is we kind of use the analogy of, you know, you have the rearview mirror, that's small, and then you have the window in front.
Yeah.
Looking out that front window, that's big, rather than looking at that tiny one that's, you know, and I know that, you know, all of our paths shape who we are today. It's for some more than others, but do you see that for you?
So my immediate response is, I believe I do that now.
Yep.
What I talk about, like, I'm looking at my book, you know, that book is the story of my life, and it's really a pretty raw view of my past, right? So what I say to people, and I try to do with myself, is, you know, your past, it's your past. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? So leave it there. And I'm all about, you know, me and Katrina are all about doing today and looking forward. What can I do to the future?
Yeah.
So, you know, creating the KCRCO, which is now Peers Rising, that is a part of that.
Yeah.
It's creating a space where people who can come in and have a nice, welcoming space to improve their life.
Yep.
Right? Will I ever be able to just completely leave the past in the past? For me, I think it's fuel for me to continue moving forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't live in the past.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think for me, because my past has shaped who I am so much, that I'll never really completely let it go.
Yeah.
And, you know, this can be a whole different conversation about mental health, and, you know, will I ever not have anxiety or worry at some level? What I've accepted is that that's probably no. I'm going to have it, but I've learned tools and skills to be able to manage it so
Yeah.
that I can be happy on most days. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question clearly.
Yeah.
Will I ever completely not look in the rear view mirror? No, I don't. I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, next month is my recovery anniversary month, and for me, that's a month where I kind of, you know, take a peek in the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
I always want to be improving.
Yeah.
I always want to be, you know, doing something to improve my life and others' lives.
Yeah.
So I view myself as a forward-thinking person.
Yeah.
With that said, that forward thinking comes from what I've experienced.
Yeah. Good.
There it is.
Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
And
same.
I always have. And there's been times where I gotta mute David Douglas on
Sure.
social. But
you're probably not the
months
only
ago, a year ago probably. Well, sorry, when things were starting to change about, your little daily messages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some days those hit a lot closer to home than others, and I've grown to really appreciate that, and that's something that you're doing from afar that you don't know it has that impact, but it does, and it gives me, it gives me hope, it gives me pause for thought and reflection, and it so I value you.
Yeah, part of for men specifically. What I do, I know I'm very public. I'm very we're out there. Like the fact that all of Ellensburg knows we have a new dog is not a shock to anyone, right? Because that's who I am.
Yep.
But also specifically for men, I want men to feel like we can be men and be real.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in the year 2026 and we still have this raw, tough guy. It's actually the pendulum has swung, and it's like, oh my God. Shocker that we have massive mental health issues and suicide among men is like, I want to provide a space where men can feel authentic.
Kind of vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's also part of it too, with that past and present and future.
Yeah.
Because I've had men reach out to me and go, thank you for sharing what you shared. I'm not there, but I appreciate what you're doing. Okay. Well, that gives me fuel to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No,
This has been great.
It's good stuff.
Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate it.